Let's take a few minutes and have a look at the mechanism of hydrochloric acid secretion by the parietal cells. So we're going to focus in on this diagram, and of course the parietal cells we've already talked about in the past. So here's a diagram of the gastric gland, part of the gastric pits, and we can see the parietal cells are located here. And then let's have a close-up here. Now some of this may seem a little familiar because we've seen some of this chemistry happen before, and we're going to walk through the 4 steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to basically end up with hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. Now, how do we do that? Well, we take CO2 enters the cell, and CO2 and water combine. So this is the same equation that we saw when we're looking at the loading of CO2 onto a red blood cell. Carbonic anhydrase leads to the acid, and then the acid is going to dissociate, very much like we saw in a red blood cell, but now we're in the parietal cells. We're going to take we have the bicarbonate and we have the hydrogen ion. Well, what are we going to do with this? We're going to take the hydrogen ion and we're going to move it out into the lumen. Now we're going to use a pump here. So it is a hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. That's this one right here. You can see it right there. Now this is an anti-Porter pump. So as I move hydrogen out, I'm going to move potassium in, right, as part of the deal. Now, I have hydrogen out here, and hydrogen is not hydrochloric acid. But what happens is that we have another system down here. So what happens here is the bicarbonate is going to leave the cell. It's often called the alkaline tide. So the bicarbonate that I made here is going to leave the cell, okay, and will be picked up eventually by the blood over here. But it's an antiport system again, that as the bicarbonate moves out, chloride is going to move in. And then the chloride basically crosses the cell and will exit through diffusion at this end. So what have we accomplished? We've been able to make hydrochloric acid, and let's just do a very quick review of it again. Carbon dioxide moves in, combines with water already in the cell. We're talking a parietal cell, right? Parietal cell. It combines, forms a weak acid, dissociates into bicarbonate and hydrogen. Hydrogen is moved out through a pump system. It's an antiport. As hydrogen is moved out, basically potassium is moved in, and that is the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Now, the hydrogen's out here. Now we have to get chloride out here. The bicarbonate that I made is going to be moved out by a second antiport system. And as the bicarbonate moves out, chloride will move in, chloride crosses, chloride will exit the cell, and I end up with hydrochloric acid. So that's the basics of hydrochloric acid secretion by parietal cells.